So, it's been quite some time till I've recorded something with a video, so with my face and me showing myself and me being there and whatnot, but I am actually quite looking forward to it a bit. I know though that it is definitely more work to do for me then, because I have to cut things which I, normally can automate when I'm only having the audio, but I'm fine with that. I mean, change is good, change is important, and not always doing things in the same way. It's doing one good, and it certainly is doing me good. So yeah, we're going through the article The Greek Path to Wellbeing by the psychologytoday.com.org. I think it is .org, isn't it? Anyway, the link is going to be down in the description, so if you want to check it out, please check it out and read it on your own if you feel like that I'm a bit too slow, or just reviewing it or reading it in a way that you just dislike. So yeah, by Alex Parakos, I guess, PhD, who might be the author of The Meaningful Life. I guess. I don't know. Maybe there's also a company, maybe there's something else. I'm not quite sure. So the Greek Path to Wellbeing, finding joy and meaning in everyday life and work, from March 22nd, 2021. And apparently it is also reviewed by Davia Sills, or Davia. Whoever this is, I don't know, but there is some sort of a verification badge next to it. So I assume and I guess and I think that it is something cool and good and maybe even important. So we can have a more meaningful life by following the example of the ancient Greeks, who understood that mind, body, and spirit are all connected. Building relationships, caring about others, and sharing resources are important ways to use, or to us, to find fulfillment. So, building relationships, caring about others, and sharing resources. Think about that. It always has something to do, or all these three have something to do with other people and basically not being alone quite. Embracing life, asking deep questions, and being true to ourselves will bring us contentment. The coronavirus, COVID-19, thank you, pandemic has put life into perspective, to be sure, and importantly, has challenged us to identify and focus on what really matters. Put differently, life is calling out to us, and we both individually and collectively are ultimately responsible for answering life's call. For millennia, the existential question, what is the meaning of life, has plagued humanity. In a more practical sense, this question has manifested itself in the human quest for meaning in life. In life. The pandemic, notwithstanding, the basic prescriptions for better health and more meaningful life have not changed over time. However, in chasing the so-called quote-unquote good life, many of us sacrifice our relationships, our health, and our sanity, and still find ourselves with lives and work that bring us little fulfillment. But while our lives may seem complex, the solution to this challenge is actually quite simple. We just need to follow the path the ancient Greeks have laid out for us, which, might be a quote, there's a source added to it, Anyway, what my colleague Elaine Dunton, I guess, and I find fascinating is that the ancient Greeks were leaders in holistic thinking, viewing the world from an integrated point of view, not just looking at the parts or events of our lives as being separate. They believed that nothing and no one was separate, that everything was connected. They were ahead of their time with their insights into the integration of spirit, mind, and body. Much later, the mind and body were viewed as separate entities, leading to what we believe are many of the issues we face in the pursuit of well-being today. Which I, by the way, think is also a pretty important thing. And I've been talking about it for months and years, and it is something that I've covered on the channel and on a podcast as well quite some time ago. But I also believe that especially the mind and body connection is definitely something to look out for and definitely something to have in mind, because, if you're feeling ill mentally, then, well, how are you going to feel physically? Probably not that well. And also vice versa. If you're feeling bad physically, when you're ill, when you've hurt yourself, and so on and so forth, then chances are pretty high that you're also going to feel bad mentally. Whether it is not having the drive that you usually have, or maybe not being as motivated as you usually are, or just not feeling as good as you usually do, just because there is something going on. There is something going on with your body. And I think it is especially something that we all can see when we are ill. Obviously, when we have broken our legs, or a leg, or an arm, or whatever it might be, then, well, we're going to feel bad. Not necessarily because of us, having broken our leg or our arm, but because it is making us do things differently, and it is making us think about things in a different way, and it is preventing us in the end from doing certain things that we might really enjoy. I mean, if you like playing computer games but your arm is broken and you're having it stiffed out, whatever you call it in English, I don't know, or you have broken your hand, well, playing video games is not going to be that of an easy task to do then, and it might prevent you from doing so, so you might have to do something different, or you might have to you might not be able to do your hobby and use your hobby in quite some time. Well, yeah. Connect meaningfully with others. And there's a quote by Aristotle: man is a social animal, and also women, by the way. Aristotle believed that we are gregarious beings who flourish in groups or communities. Importantly, it is our nature to belong. Today, we live in a global world, but despite our social media connectivity, our email, and our texting, research has shown that many people feel increasingly alienated. Depression, anxiety, and addiction are all on the rise, leading to a general decline in well-being. A related challenge we face today is that instead of relying on those we know for the necessities of life, we are dependent on strangers and institutions for our survival. We don't barter with neighbors or even know where our food comes from. Instead, we shop at supermarkets. We don't depend on others for information or advice. We turn to the internet. At the same time, we are also more independent. Rather than borrowing things from our neighbors, we simply buy our own. Instead of asking others to help us, we do the chore ourselves or hire professionals. So, what have we lost? Have we tried so hard to be self-sufficient that we have cut ourselves off from each other, even before the pandemic-related restrictions on social contact came into play? Ancient and modern Greeks have much to share about connecting meaningfully with others. They teach us that we are all important participants in different quote-unquote villages in our lives, whether that village is our family, our friends, co-workers, or a large organization. Greeks teach us to extend hospitality to others and always include them. And there's a quote: "There's always room for one more." Sharing and caring. We should look for someone to eat and drink with before looking for something to eat and drink. I'm willing to repeat. We should look for someone to eat and drink with before looking for something to eat and drink, by Epicurus. Throughout Greece, building relationships through conversation is an integral part of daily activity. Stopping to greet others acknowledges their presence, their human existence, and tells them they are an important part of the quote-unquote village. It is about the conversation and the connection. Every interaction is an opportunity to strengthen or weaken connections with others. In no small way, the depth of our lives depends on the depth of our relationships with others. This is an important part of the Greek way of living. Embrace life with zest. The sun is new each day. Heraclitus. The ancient Greeks taught us that the life is short and ever-changing. Importantly, the need to embrace the fullness of life, all its ups and downs, joys and sorrows, with gusto and an appreciation for being alive is built into the Greek DNA. Indeed, to be enthusiastic about life means literally to manifest the spirit within. Greece should lead the world in teaching a holistic approach to well-being. Taking good care of the spirit, mind, and body is ingrained in the culture. Greeks know that life is about energy, and well-being is about keeping this important life energy flowing. We can all adopt the essence of the Hippocratic oath to do no harm by replacing inactivity, excessive stress, overeating, and eating poor quality foods with healthier choices. In times of crisis and undue stress, when we are struggling or lacking fulfillment, we need to go back to the basics in life and search for sources of true meaning and well-being. As Heraclitus taught us, the sun is new each day. Every day is a new chance to connect meaningfully with others, find a deeper purpose, and embrace life fully. It is a new opportunity to follow the Greek path to well-being. Questions and answers. I am not alone in my fear, nor alone in my hope, nor alone in my shouting. Nikos Kazantzakis, author Zoroba the Greek. The famous Greek saying, "Know thyself," is inscribed on a plaque above the entrance to the temple of Apollo at Delphi, a sacred place where ancient Greece came to seek guidance. Their questions were answered by Pythia, the priests or the priestess of the Greek god Apollo, but her answers were usually cryptic and open to interpretation. Once the visitor received an answer from Pythia, the challenge was what to do with the answer. Should they blindly follow her advice, believing they had received quote-unquote the answer, or was the inscription "Know thyself" a warning to decide the validity of the answer for oneself? In this speech defending himself at his trial, Socrates describes how he would like Heraclitus go within and listen to his inner voice to discover the right quote-unquote thing to do. His approach was clearly metaphysical. He combined logic and reason with intuition, consulting what we refer to as his inner oracle. Like Socrates, the challenge for many of us is whether to trust our inner oracle or our senses of inner knowing, or whether to allow ourselves to be swayed by others. Be true to yourself. There is one life for each of us, our own. Euripides. The ancient Greeks taught us to always act in accordance with our true nature, whatever this might mean, but in the final analysis, the greatest challenge in our life is to discover and embrace our core essence. Many people tend to focus on what job or career they think they should have, or how they might define their overall purpose in life. However, in actuality, a truly meaningful life starts from, remains engaged with, and ultimately returns to one's core essence, awakening our true selves by connecting with who we really are. The Greeks taught us that if we drive away from our authentic selves, perhaps by focusing on achieving or acquiring quote-unquote external things, instead of focusing on what resonates with our core essence or true nature, we will never realize our highest potential. They believe that the end goal of life is eudaimonia, or eudaimonia, a concept involving deep fulfillment, inner and outer prosperity, and being of service to others. There is also some references. There's 3 references, and I'm quickly going to go through them so that people from the podcast also know. The first one is a version of this article co-authored by Elaine Dunton, is published in Greece Is Health 2017 to 2018 edition, issue #27, page 100 to 102. A magazine distributed at major tourist attractions in Greece, such as the Acropolis Museum and key archaeological sites, selected hotels and embassies, the Greek National Tourism Organization's branches around the world, blah, 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 blah. The second, the Greek word eudaimonia is sometimes anglicized as eudaimonia, eudaimonia or eudaimonia, anglicized as eudaimonia, which is something that I've been covering on a channel before, or eudaimonia, even though these forms of the word are phonetically incorrect. More importantly, its interpretation has been closely associated with the emergence of the field of positive psychology and, by extension, the study of happiness in postmodern culture. For a detailed explanation of this important concept, see Parakos A. and Stanton E. 2015, the OPA! Way Finding Joy and Meaning in Everyday Life and Work. Dallas Bella Books, Chapter 8, Engage with Eudaimonia. The third, for further information about the philosophical insights and lessons introduced in this article, see Parakos A. and Dunton E. 2015, the OPA! Way Finding Joy and Meaningful Everyday, blah, 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 blah. As a pathway to finding meaning in life, work, and society can also be found in Parakos A. and Dunton E. 2017, Prisoners of Our Thoughts, Viktor Frankl's Principles for Discovering Meaning in Life and Work, 3rd edition, Oakland, Barrett Köhler, or Quora, whatever, publishes. And by the way, as I'm reading through it, or as I was reading through it, and as I also was thinking about it today, throughout the day and whatnot, I always had to think about, because at this time I clearly am struggling with finding meaning in my own life and being happy, quite. And so I had to think about Viktor Frankl and what he had to say. And it's funny that they also point that out. So maybe checking out Prisoners of Our Thoughts might be a good idea. But yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna see you the next time. Bye bye. I wish you the best.